No?
Again, the same thing, huh? Okay.
That's fine. Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibheriditam Kalmashakaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatam Bhuvigananti Bhurirajana. Your words are like nectar, bring life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We had a little problem last Friday. We don't know why. We had the class, but it wasn't recorded and no one could see it. The live streaming didn't work and it wasn't recorded. So I thought that I'll just repeat the list if the people present don't mind. So that means that we're starting just at the very end of the chapter at Ram's house. This is page 795, and the date is Saturday, June 13th, 1885. So as I say, just at the very end of this chapter, as Sri Ramakrishna sat on the small couch, after chanting the names of the different deities, he meditated on the Divine Mother. The evening service was over. Sri Ramakrishna paced the room, now and then talking to the devotees. He also consulted M about his going to Calcutta. The chapter is at Ram's house, but this is the second portion of it. He was in his own room in Dakshineshwar. So he had a plan to go to Calcutta that night. But presently Narendra arrived. He was accompanied by Sharat and one or two other young devotees. They all saluted the master. At the sight of Narendra, Sri Ramakrishna's love overflowed. He tenderly touched Narendra's chin as one touches a baby's to show one's love. He said in a loving voice, "Ah, you have come." The master was standing in his room facing the Ganges. Narendra and his young friends were talking to him facing the east. The master turned toward M and said, "Narendra has come. How can I go to Calcutta now? I sent for Narendra. How can I go now? What do you think?" M. As you wish, sir. Let us put it off today. Master. All right. We shall go tomorrow, either by boat or by carriage. To the other devotees. It is late. Go home now. One by one, the devotees saluted him and departed. Probably Narendra and Sharat spent the night with Sri Ramakrishna. Okay, so that was the end of that chapter. Now we're beginning the chapter 42, the car festival at Balaram's house. Monday, July 13th, 1885. As Ramakrishna was sitting in Balaram's drawing room with the devotees. Yeah, so I'm going to be repeating myself a lot for the people in the room, but yeah, I apologize. Yes, Thakur went to Balaram's house more than any other place in Kolkata. It's said 100 times. I don't know if it means he spent the night 100 times or visited 100 times, but that's an incredibly large number because it's just over a period of probably 5-6 years or something. Yeah, and Balaram's house was it was a big house, and there were upstairs rooms, downstairs rooms, and it was really open. Any of the close devotees, the monastic members, the brothers, very often stayed there. We find Latu Maharaj staying there. Swami Brahmanandi, very often during the malaria season, he would stay there. He was afraid to stay in Belur Math at that time. Swami Turiyanandaji would stay there. I don't think Narendra ever stayed there overnight. His house was close enough also. But so this Balaram, he came from a very devout, pious Vaishnava family, and they were also wealthy people. They were landowners, and they had a place somewhere in Orissa. They had something in Vrindavan, and Balaram was basically on a stipend from the family, it seems. We don't find him really working. He was probably expected to do something, looking after the different estates and things like that. And his father, his brother in particular, didn't trust him because they didn't know much about Sri Ramakrishna, and they knew that his nature was to spend money. He was very frugal with regard to himself, but he would spend money for the others. So they kept him on a short leash that way. And finally, we find brother and father coming to meet Sri Ramakrishna, and things went well. Not that after that they became close devotees or anything, but still. So this is Balaram. Whole family was very devoted. And Balaram had a wonderful death. His wife had a vision of a golden chariot coming down and taking him upward and something. So anyhow, very wonderful family. Everyone, Swamiji himself and the others, they were all held him in the highest esteem. The deity Jagannath was worshipped daily at his house. So this is the footnote, the name of Krishna as he is worshipped in Puri, literally Lord of the universe. He had a small car which would be drawn along the veranda to celebrate the festival. The master had been specially invited for the occasion. So this is now one of the centers of the order. People can go and visit. 1 or 2 or 3 monks will stay there. And the room where Thakur used to sleep is now the shrine room. You can visit that. And the veranda is an interior veranda with an open view of the courtyard inside. So you could actually go around this veranda, and this is where they would pull the chariot. Sri Ramakrishna and M were talking together. Narayan, Tej Chandra, Balaram, and other devotees were in the room. Narayan and Tej Chandra, and then they're talking about Purna. These are all these young boys, middle teenagers, probably mid-teenager years, who were students of M, and M had brought them to Sri Ramakrishna, and he was very, very fond of them. He looked upon all of them as very pure souls. So the master was talking about Purna, a lad of 15. Purna was the only non-monastic disciple to be considered one of the 6 Ishwarakotis. So he occupies a very special place. And Thakur said, Purna means complete, full. That with Purna, this inner circle is complete. No. Those who come afterwards will be, they can be devotees, but not part of that real inner circle. So the master was talking about Purna, a lad of 15. He was very eager to see the boy. Master to M. Well, by which road will he come to see me? Please have Purna and Dvija meet each other. So Thakur liked to pair these devotees together who could be helpful to each other in their spiritual life, who had some similar qualities and similar spiritual outlook. So he knew which ones would go together. He used to say, like the housewife knows which lid goes in which pot. He could put them together like that. When 2 people are of the same age and have the same inner nature, I bring them together. There is a meaning in this. In this way, both make progress. Have you noticed Purna's longing for God? M. Yes, sir. One day I was riding on a tram. He saw me from the roof of his house and ran down to the street. With great fervor, he saluted me from the street. Master, with tears in his eyes. Ah, ah, it is because you have helped him make the contact through which he will find out the supreme ideal of his life. Contact means Sri Ramakrishna. One doesn't act like that unless one longs for God. Narendra, the younger Naren, and Purna. These three have a manly nature. It is not so with Bhavanath. He has a womanly nature. Now, we've seen that Thakur will have these little divisions and things. It's not always very clear. Sometimes we think manly nature should be Jnani, and the womanly nature should be a Bhakta, but it doesn't seem to be that, because we'll find that Purna, that he's more devotional. He likes the Vaishnava tradition and everything, as opposed to Narendra. And Bhavanath has a womanly nature, and yet he and Narendra, Thakur says that they're similar in their outlook, so they can go to. So it's not really clear. Something to do with a little bit shy and retired, or a little bit bold, probably. Purna is in such an exalted state that either he will very soon give up his body. The body is useless after the realization of God, or his inner nature will within a few days burst forth. He has a divine nature, the traits of a god. It makes a person less fearful of men. If you put a garland of flowers round his neck, or smear his body with sandal paste, or burn incense before him, he will go into samadhi. For then he will know beyond the shadow of a doubt that Narayana himself dwells in his body, that it is Narayana who has assumed the body. I've come to know about it. So these things can be understood in two ways. One is the Vedantic point of view, that we can all come to know God alone dwells within, or he can come to know that he's playing a special role as a companion of the avatar. These two. This is why there's so much difference of opinion, even about Swamiji, that when Thakur said when he comes to know his real nature, he'll refuse to live in the body anyway. So some people take that as meaning that I am the Atman beyond this and that and everything. Other people, and I take it the second way, that he realizes that he's a companion of an avatar. He came for that mission in life, that maybe as Thakur brought him down, one of the seven sages, whatever, something like that. A few days after my first experience of the God-intoxicated state at Dakshineswar, a lady of a Brahmin family arrived here. She had many good traits. No sooner was a garland put round her neck and incense burnt before her than she went into samadhi. A few moments later, she experienced great bliss. Tears streamed from her eyes. I saluted her and said, "Mother, shall I succeed?" "Yes," she replied. Now, Thakur uses the term samadhi. It's a very general term. It can be just some what he used to call bhava samadhi. We don't look upon these things as going into nirvikalpa samadhi, because a few minutes later she comes back down, great bliss and tears. So she had some experience, some devotional spiritual experience. I want to see Purna once more, but how will it be possible for me? It seems he is a part. How amazing, not a mere particle, but a part. Again, we have a footnote, that a part of the divine incarnation. So we have these different theories in this Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition about these kala and anksha, the parts and participles, that depending on the degree of manifestation and spiritual power or something, that they may represent just a portion. They may represent full, as all 100%. That'll be the avatar. Uh, So even the other avatars are not all considered. They'll make a distinction that way. In the Bhagavata Purana, they'll give a list of all these avatars and then make a distinction that, but Krishna, he's different from all of the others even. So Krishna is tu Bhagavan Swayam. So he's the source of all of the others. So that means the others are all coming from that divine source. They may represent 100%, the avatar, the 80%, 60%, for it like that. These are all theories of how to judge these things. So I understand. It seems to me he is a part. How amazing. Not a mere particle, but a part. Very intelligent, too. I understand that he is very clever in his studies. Therefore, I have hit it right. By dint of austerity, a man may obtain God as his son. By the roadside on the way to Kamarpukur is Ranjit Rai's lake. Bhagavati, the Divine Mother, was born as his daughter. Even now, people hold an annual festival there in the month of Chaitra in honor of this divine daughter. I feel very much like going there. So these are, we can say village tradition or whatever. It doesn't mean that this is the avatar. That somehow these manifestations, whether we take this literally or just that someone is born with tremendously divine traits, is very hard to say. But people in those days, especially in villages and things, they took this very literally. The Divine Mother has been born in our family. Now he'll explain this other instance. Ranjit Rai was the landlord of that part of the country. Through the power of his tapasya, he obtained the Divine Mother as his daughter. He was very fond of her, and she too was much attracted to him. She hardly left his presence. One day, Ranjit Rai was engaged in the duties of his estate. He was very busy. The girl, with her childlike nature, was constantly interrupting him, saying, "Father, what is this? What is that?" Ranjit Rai tried with sweet words to persuade her not to disturb him and said, "My child, please leave me alone. I have much work to do." But the girl would not go away. At last, absent-mindedly, the father said, "Get out of here." On this pretext, she left home. A peddler of conch shell articles was going along the road. From him, she took a pair of bracelets for her wrists. When he asked for the price, she said that he could get the money from a certain box in her home. Then she disappeared. Nobody saw her again. In the meantime, a peddler came to the house and asked for the price of his bracelets. When she was not to be found at home, her relatives began to run about looking for her. Ranjit Rai sent people in all directions to search for her. The money owed to the peddler was found in the box, as she had indicated. Ranjit Rai was weeping bitterly when people came running to him and said that they had noticed something in the lake. They all ran there and saw an arm with conch-shelled bracelets on the wrist being waved above the water. A moment afterwards, it disappeared. Even now, people worship her as the Divine Mother at the time of the annual festival. To M. All this is true. Now, I don't know what to say about these things. Not everybody will take this literally. What exactly true that these things took place? Apparently, there were other people who saw this and everything. How to explain how the Divine Mother is born as his daughter and then only lives for a short period of time? It's very difficult to understand these things. But it shows the faith that people had, and how Thakur, he didn't want people to be simple-minded and not examine things, but how he admired this guilelessness, a simple faith that people had. I remember there was a film that was made, the Satyajit Ray, Devi. Yeah, it's a very interesting film that really it takes the point of view of the skeptic, uh, that you set up somebody as divine mother like that, and the poor girl doesn't know what's happening and everything. I have a feeling a little bit, just my guess, a little bit directed toward Thakur and Holy Mother. I don't know. Yeah. So if I remember correctly, that daughter-in-law in the house and the father-in-law thinks there's something very special about her, and then one or two people come with some illness or disease, something, and she cures them. Apparently cures them, and then the word gets out that she has these powers and that she's the divine mother in human form. Thousands of people start coming day and night and everything, and then some very important person comes with some illness or something, and she doesn't cure him. And then overnight they give her up. A very sad thing, her life is ruined. So a little bit from the skeptic's point of view about all of these things. Of course, it's very hard to say. When we see Holy Mother, then we have some faith. Yeah, but this is an unusual thing. So all this is true. Yes, sir, Master. Narendra now believes these things. Purna was born with an element of Vishnu. So this means that he was more inclined toward bhakti yoga, the path of devotion. This was the distinction Thakur made. Those born with an element of Shiva, they'd be jnanis. And so he said everybody will have a little bit of this distinction. We may be mixed. We may be closer to the middle, where we like both the jnana and bhakti, or maybe extreme, that we don't care for personal God at all, only want the self-knowledge, or don't want to bother with philosophy at all, only want to worship God. So the two extremes, and with a lot of overlap. Purna was born with an element of Vishnu. I worshipped him mentally with bell leaves, but the offering was not accepted. Then I worshipped him with tulsi leaves and sandal paste. That proved to be all right. Another footnote, leaves of the bell tree are offered to Shiva, whereas tulsi leaves and sandal paste are offered to Vishnu. God reveals himself in many ways, sometimes as man, sometimes in other divine forms made of spirit. One must believe in divine forms. What do you say? Yeah, so the jnani or the Vedantin will say yes. And God is revealing himself in all the ways and dwelling within all beings. Everyone is a manifestation of the divine. Thakur would say the difference is the degree of power. Yeah. The Shakti Vishesh, that would be the distinction. All of these divine forms, I mentioned last time, this concept of these divine forms all dwelling within the cosmic mind, and having some element of subjectivity. And that we have these two ways of looking at these visions of divine forms. One is that there's some objectivity to these things in this cosmic realm, that these different deities, that they have their dwelling place there also, the lokas and all of that. And the other, this idea God reveals himself in the form that the devotee most wants to see. So that'll be Thakur's example, that the cooling power of the devotee will cause the ocean to form blocks of ice according to the desire of the devotee. And then they'll meld back. So they're not absolute. They can meld back with the sun of knowledge. So different ways of trying to understand these things. Because we don't have these visions, we don't know. Even if we have these visions, it would be hard to say. Yeah. Problem is, how Swamiji explains, that many, even these great souls, that they have a particular vision of God in a particular form, and think that that's the absolute and beginning and end, and everyone has to worship God that way. Whereas Thakur, he could see all of the different ways that people worship, and from his vantage point on the roof, he could see all the different paths, and he could see that they all lead to the same goal. That there's no need to confuse this concept of nishtha with any type of fanaticism. That we have our own path, and we have great faith in that, but recognize that other people have their own path. They have great faith in theirs, and it's equally good for them as ours is for us. So Thakur says, one must believe in divine forms. He had so many visions. These visions for him were more real than seeing people with eyes open. So how could he question it? And then he says, what do you say? Talking to M. M, it is true, sir. Master, the Brahmani of Kamarhati sees many visions. So this was Gopal Ma. She lives all by herself in a lonely room in a garden on the bank of the Ganges. She spends her time in japa. Gopala sleeps with her. Now this is her own personal experience. We're not talking now about a visible child that others can see. This is her own subjective experience, but real. See, we always think subjective means imaginary, objective means real. For Thakur, it's the other way around. Objective is through the senses. We don't know what is there actually on the other side of the senses. But subjective is something we directly experience. So there's a footnote just to the baby Krishna. Yeah. So she had that experience, and she could see there's a baby on going around with her with the little arms around her neck and everything else. But could anybody else see it? What would it look like if we were there to see somebody doing this and that and everything? Yeah. So they're personal, they're subjective, but they're real. There's truth behind all of this. This was the same experience that Sri Ramakrishna had with that the baby Rama, Ram Lala. Only there was an image there. But for him, he's not seeing the image, he's seeing the real baby Rama. That's as far as we understand. So she spends her time in japa. Gopala sleeps with her. The master gives a start. It is not imagination, but fact. She saw that Gopala's palms were red. He walks with her. She suckles him at her breast. They talk to each other. When Narendra heard the story, he wept. Formerly, I too used to see many visions. So it's a vision, but real. So Thakur is not using real in the sense that we use it. I used to see many visions, but now in my ecstatic state, I don't see so many. I'm gradually getting over my feminine nature. So this also goes together with seeing visions and having different types of ecstasies and physical manifestations of these things, the tears and the burning sensation and everything. I feel nowadays more like a man. Therefore, I control my emotion. I don't manifest it outwardly so much. The younger Naren has the nature of a man. Therefore, in meditation, his mind completely merges in the ideal. He does not show emotion. Nitya Gopal has a feminine nature. Therefore, while he is in a spiritual mood, his body becomes distorted and twisted. It becomes flushed. To him, well, people renounce grain by grain, but what a mood these youngsters are in. What a state Dvija is passing through. In my presence, he only sways his body and fixes his glance on me. Is that a trifling thing? If a man gathers his whole mind and fixes it on me, then indeed he achieves everything. Now, Thakur will only talk like this when he's in a certain mood. Otherwise, don't talk to me, don't call me this guru and karta and all those things. And I'm the dust of Rama's feet. I'm Rama's servant. Don't call me Rama. But when he gets in another mood, and then when he feels that there is no Sri Ramakrishna, there's only the Divine Mother dwelling in that body, then he can speak like this. See, he'll explain it in the next line. But let me read this again. In my presence, he only sways his body, Dvija, and fixes his glance on me. Is that a trifling thing? If a person gathers his whole mind and fixes it on me, then indeed he achieves everything. But what am I? So he's saying that doesn't mean I, this Sri Ramakrishna. It means that divine power within. It is all he. No, I would say it is all she. Yeah, we have this difficulty with the Bengali language that the same word is used for he and she, so it's up to the translator. And in those days when this was translated, people didn't have this big issue about using what do they call it, non-gender language or something like that. So they would use man and he, meaning for men and women. But for Thakur, it was almost always the Divine Mother dwelling within. Especially, I am the machine, and she is the operator. This is the Ram Prasad song. It is God alone who exists in this, meaning his body. That is why so many people are feeling more and more attracted to it. Yeah, God dwells within everybody, but this ego of ours just covers everything over. Thakur had that ego was gone. So really nothing left there but the Divine Mother. This is the distinction. A mere touch is enough to awaken their spirituality. This attraction, this pull, is the attraction of God and of none else. Of course, it was Thakur's personality and his love and all of that, the divinity shining through that particular divine personality. Tarak of Belgoria was going home from Dakshineshwar. I clearly noticed that a flame-like thing came out of this, meaning his body, and followed him. A few days later, Tarak came back to Dakshineshwar. In a state of samadhi, he who dwells in this body placed his foot on Tarak's chest. Well, are there more youngsters like these? M. Mohit is very nice. He came to you once or twice. He is studying enough books to pass 2 university examinations. He has great longing for God. Master, that may be, but he doesn't belong to a high plane. So M has some insight into these young boys, but just from the outside. Thakur has a different way of understanding. His physical traits are not so good. He has a puggish face, but these other youngsters belong to a high plane. Many troubles and worries follow in the wake of a birth in the physical body. Further, if a person is cursed, he may have to be born 7 times. One must be very careful. This is another thing that was very much taken very seriously. All these stories about these old rishis and sages that we know about Gautam and Ahalya, that if they cursed you, then there's not much you could do. There was the incident in the life of Swamiji. He was in Kashmir. And somehow there was a holy man there that had some disciples who got a little bit attracted to Swamiji. And this guru got very angry and cursed Swamiji. Yeah, that he'll fall ill or something. And it actually happened. And then Swamiji went and complained to Holy Mother that where is this Thakur, so wonderful? He couldn't prevent this ordinary guru from cursing me and me suffering from that. And then she said something like, my child, we have to accept everything, even the ability of somebody to curse somebody else. So these were things that were part of this old even Vedic tradition. And then much later, people were very nervous around some sadhus, angry sadhus and everything, that they could get cursed. And something very bad would happen. Or even if they just got angry, that it would be very inauspicious for the devotee. Equally so, that they also could cure people. And not just curse, but they could cure others. Hey, devotee, what are the desires of those who are incarnations of God? Master smiling. I find that I've not got rid of all my desires. So there's a little way of saying that, yeah, I can answer that question specifically, not in general. Once I saw a holy man with a shawl, and I too wanted to put on one like it. Even now I have that desire. I don't know whether I shall have to be born again for it. So is this Thakur being cute? Is it funny, or just now he's in the mood of an ordinary person? That human side of him. Balaram smiling. Then will you be born again just for a shawl? All laugh. Master smiling. One has to keep a good desire so that one may give up the body meditating on it. There are 4 holy places for the sadhus to visit. They visit 3 and leave out 1. Many of them leave out Puri, the place of Jagannath, so that they can give up their bodies meditating on Jagannath. So, of course, the belief is that they'll attain liberation doing that. A man dressed in an ochre robe entered the room and greeted the master. Privately, he was in the habit of criticizing Sri Ramakrishna. So at the sight of him, Balaram laughed. Sri Ramakrishna could read a man's mind. He said to Balaram, "Never mind, let him say I am a cheat." And Sri Ramakrishna was talking to Tej Chandra. Master, I sent for you so often. Why don't you come? Oh, we found out last time that he's M's brother-in-law, younger brother-in-law. Yeah, maybe his wife's brother. If you practice meditation and prayer, it will make me happy. I look on you as my own. That is why I send for you. Tej Chandra, sir, I have to go to the office. I'm very busy with my duties. Now, he's telling a fib and he's going to get caught. Yeah, M is going to turn him in. He's not going to let it slide. That means that they have a very close, nice relationship. Otherwise, he won't do it. He won't embarrass others so easily. M smiling. There was a marriage ceremony at his home, and he got leave from his office for 10 days. Master, well, you say you've no leisure. You told me just now that you were going to renounce the world. Narayan. M said to us one day that this world is a wilderness. Yeah, M was one of the few householders. Even though the householders were wonderful, but they weren't so much in favor of these young boys renouncing the world. Yeah. In fact, after Thakur passed away, Ram, especially, and some of the others, they sided with their parents and very much wanted them to go back home. But M, partly because he himself suffered so much. Yeah, he suffered from the loss of his mother, and then unhappiness at home, and then the loss of a child, and then his wife practically went mad. So many things. His life was very difficult. So he would always be warning them. Master to M, please tell them the story of the disciple who became unconscious after taking the medicine. His teacher arrived at the house and said he would revive if someone else swallowed a pill that he would prescribe. The disciple would get back his life, but the man who swallowed the pill would die. Please tell the other one too, of the Hatha Yogi, who thought that his wife and children were his very own, and who feigned death with his limbs stretched out. It will do them good to hear those stories. These are long stories. I won't go through them. We've come across them probably more than once in the gospel. They are all men for those who have that vairagya and have that potential at least to renounce everything. It is not for other people. That no harm in feeling that our near and dear ones love us and that we love them. But too much attachment is the problem. And people suffer from the attachment. So this is any of these are two very extreme stories that we shudder when we hear about them. It was noon as Sri Ramakrishna partook of the food that had been offered to the family deity Jagannath. So this is the same Jagannath that they'll pull around in the little chariot. It's still there. You can see it. They keep it on that upper veranda. The master often used to say that the food at Balaram's house was very pure. Afterwards, he rested a while. Late in the afternoon, Sri Ramakrishna sat with the devotees in the drawing room of Balaram's house. Chandra Babu of the Karta Bhaja sect and a witty Brahmin were there. The Karta Bhaja sect was one of the many groups of that day that they did a little of the left-handed type of sadhana, taking wine and mixing men and women, doing practices together. But Thakur was so liberal. There's Vaishnav Charan, who was a very dear, close friend, and he was the leader of this particular group. Thakur went many times even there. And then when it got a little too much, the women approaching him, will you be my companion? Then he said, I'm never going again. But he said that I went there. They're taking this, what they call karan. Some sacred sanctified wine or something. They'll take some and then do their sadhana. He said, I thought they'll drink some and sit for. Instead, they're singing and dancing and falling down. So there were sincere people. And then there were some who just did it for under the guise of religion. They could have some enjoyment. But there were some sincere people. Vaishnav Charan was a sincere person. This Kedarnath, he also belonged to some of these groups at one time. And Thakur said one can realize God even through this path, like entering the house through the back door where the servant goes to clean out the latrine. He said, but it's not a clean path, and don't go near it. He warned his own disciples. About 6 o'clock, Girish's brother Atul, he was also greatly devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, the two brothers, and Tej Chandra's brother arrived. Sri Ramakrishna was in samadhi. That was normal for him at the sunset at this time of day to go into some spiritual mood. A few minutes later, he said, still in the ecstatic mood, can one become unconscious by meditating on consciousness? Can one lose one's mind by thinking of God? God is of the very nature of knowledge. He is of the very nature of eternity, purity, and consciousness. Now, Thakur was saying this because this was the criticism that he had heard from the Brahmo Samaj and Shivnath Shastri in particular. And it was written in that book by Trailokya Sanyal that Thakur, too much of this focusing on Divine Mother, that it caused a little bit of madness. Now, Thakur agreed that it was madness, but it was divine madness. Divon Mada, this divine madness. So Thakur, this was his rebuttal. He said, you're saying that. You people meditate day and night on worldly things. And one can go crazy that way. But how does one go off one's behead? How does one go off one's rocker by thinking of God? Then one will take on these divine attributes. God is the very nature of knowledge. He is of the very nature of eternity, purity, and consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna said to the witty Brahmin, Why do you waste your time with these frivolous jokes about insignificant worldly things? Direct your mind to God. If a man can calculate about salt, he can also calculate about sugar candy. So that means if we have enough intelligence to be able to do worldly things, that same intelligence can be used for this vichara. If we have the same concentration, we can concentrate very deeply on some hobby that we have. That means we can do it all, concentrate on God also. Same mind is being used in both cases. Brahmin smiling. Please attract me, Master. What can I do? Everything depends on your effort. We always talk about this tension between self-effort and grace, or self-effort and determinism and free will. Do we have any free will to do these things? So the safest position to take is that in our present understanding, we have to assume that we can put forth effort and that we have some degree of free will. Later, we may reach a point where we see it was all play of the divine dwelling within. But now, he said, we should take this attitude. We should feel everything depends on our effort. And as Swamiji says, and the results depend on God. Feel that everything depends on us when we perform action. Everything depends on God when it comes to the fruits of action. So Thakur says, what can I do? Everything depends on your effort. Your mind is your own. Now, very often we'll say my mind is not my own. That means I don't feel in control of the mind. I want the mind to do this, it does something else. This is saying that don't make that excuse. Ultimately, you're responsible. It may be very difficult, but we have this power when the mind is wanted to pull it back. Abhyasa yoga. That we have to feel, at least make that attempt. We can't go around blaming everybody. It may be true that the mind is not my own, that I feel that something is pulling it away, that how difficult it is to control it, like controlling the wind, or like the boat without the rudder, with the wind blowing it here and there. We may feel like that. There's some truth to it, but it's not an excuse. It is my mind after all. I know that there are times when I want to fix my mind on something for my own pleasure or my own gain, I can do it. So if I can't do it thinking about God, who to blame? You have to take some personal responsibility. So, all of these statements, where Thakur will say that ultimate knowledge is I am not the doer. And here he's saying everything depends on your effort. We have to know the context of these things. Your mind is your own. Give up this trifling buffoonery and go forward toward God. You can go farther and farther along that way. The brahmachari asked the woodcutter to go forward, one of Thakur's stories, to go forward. At first, the woodcutter found a sandalwood forest, next a silver mine, next a gold mine, and then gems and diamonds. Brahmin. There is no end to this path. Now, in the story, when he gets to the diamonds, then that's it. Then he's rich as a andir. And that's the end of the whole thing. But the Brahmin says, no. He said, go forward, then keep going and going. There's no end to it. Master, where you find peace, there is the end. So that means peace means fulfillment, realization, where all the doubts disappear and one has that ultimate experience. About a new visitor, Sri Ramakrishna said, I didn't find any substance in him. He seemed worthless. It was dusk. Lamps were lighted in the room. Sri Ramakrishna was meditating on the Divine Mother and chanting her name in his melodious voice. The devotees sat around him. Since Balaram was going to celebrate the car festival at his house the following day, Sri Ramakrishna intended to spend the night there. After taking some refreshments in the inner apartments, Sri Ramakrishna returned to the parlor. This is the time when he gets to mix intimately with the women of the family and their friends and relatives who have come. So the inner apartment, for a long time, this was a separate part of this Balaram Mandir. I don't know when, but this Balaram's, I guess, great grandson of the Swami's of order was a lawyer, Swami Kuntanandaji, and he was the one who headed the law case against the family. So that now I think the whole the backside of the property and house also belongs to the order, if I remember correctly. But I know he was the one who he had the lawsuit against his own family members. So that would be, I think, where the inner apartment was. So that was, other men are not to go there. Only maybe members of the family or something. But for an outsider, the exception was always made for Sri Ramakrishna. And so he would always generally take his refreshments there with them. And the other men wouldn't be there at that time. He could discuss all sorts of spiritual things, and we don't know anything about it because M wasn't present. There's a great loss to us because we'll find that he'll be warning them against men, the same way he warns men against women and all the other things. Okay, now we get to the day of the car festival, Tuesday, July 14th, 1885. It was the day of the car festival. Sri Ramakrishna had left his bed very early in the morning. He was alone in the room, dancing and chanting the name of God. This udipana, he'll get into the spiritual mood, just thinking that this is the day of the car festival. M entered and saluted the master. Other devotees arrived one by one. They saluted the master and took seats near him. Sri Ramakrishna was longing intensely for Purna. He was talking to M about him. So this is 1885. Purna had just started coming. He only came the last year of Thakur's life. Master, did you give Purna any instruction? M, I asked him to read the life of Chaitanya. So we know how Thakur considered Chaitanya Deva to be an avatar and knew that Purna had that devotional side to him. So this would be very appropriate. He is familiar with the incidents of his life. I told him further that you ask people to stick to the truth. Yes, Thakur used to say, if one can stick to the truth in this Kali Yuga, one can realize God through that practice alone, truthfulness. This is the tapasya of the Kali Yuga. Master, how did he take it when you said about me, he is an incarnation of God? I said to him, come with me if you want to see a person like Chaitanya. M still has this little slight hesitation with regard to this avatar. It's the same with Swamiji. They have their own way of looking at it. So possibly this is the way he would say, come to see a rare human soul that is born every 500 years for some special mission in life. But they were also influenced by the Brahmo Samaj and Western thinking. And this idea of God is infinite, how can it be manifested portion, all of these ideas. So I said to him, come with me if you want to see a person like Chaitanya. Anything else? M. Also that remark of yours, that when an elephant enters a small pool, there's a great splashing of water all around. Likewise, in the case of a small receptacle, emotion overflows. This receptacle, this was a terminology that Thakur used. This is adhar. That this is how he would explain how much one can hold, can hold of spiritual emotions and spiritual realizations and spiritual experiences. It depends on the size. So we've seen references to this big cistern in Thakur's room, in the northwest corner of his room. He would use for bathing sometimes and everything, as well jala. So he would say, the others are like little pitchers or buckets or this or that. Swamiji is like that huge cistern. So he would make that kind of distinction. Or different types of bamboo. Some you cut it open, and there's a big enough thing you could cut it and use it for a cup. A lot of water will fill it. Others, there's just a small amount. So the different sizes, adhar. So he would say that these great souls, this is why when we see some of the householder disciples and everything falling over themselves, singing and dancing, such emotion and everything, it's not always a sign of that tremendous spirituality. It may also be a sign of their inability to absorb these things without expressing them outwardly. And both things are possible. And so with someone like Swamiji, he could hold a tremendous amount before there would be any outward manifestation of it. And this is M speaking. About his giving up a fish, I said to him, "Why have you done that? Your family will make a great fuss about it." Master, that's good. One should keep one's feelings and emotions to oneself. Yeah, Thakur used to say, the less people know of our spiritual practice and of our spiritual experiences, the better for us. Yeah. It's not good to divulge these things or to make a show of these things. It was about 6:30 in the morning. N was going to bathe in the Ganges when suddenly tremors of an earthquake were felt. At once he returned to Sri Ramakrishna's room. The master stood in the drawing room. The devotees stood around him. They were talking about the earthquake. The shaking had been rather violent, and many of the devotees were frightened. M. You should all have gone downstairs. Master. Such is the fate of the house under whose roof one lives, and still people are so egotistic. This also symbolically means the body that we live in, that it will also fall apart sometime. To M, do you remember the great storm of the month of Ashwin? M, yes, sir. I was very young at that time, 9 or 10 years old. I was alone in a room while the storm was raging, and I prayed to God. M was surprised and said to himself, why did the master suddenly ask me about the great storm of Ashwin? Does he know that I was alone at that time, earnestly praying to God with tears in my eyes? Does he know all this? Has he been protecting me as my guru since my very birth? Master, it was quite late in the day at Dakshineswar when the storm broke, but somehow they managed to cook the meals. The trees were uprooted. You see, that is the fate of the house one lives in. But when one attains perfect knowledge, then one finds that dying and killing are one and the same thing. That is to say, both are unreal. And of course, reference to Sri Krishna's teaching to Arjuna. Yeah, he who thinks that the killer kills and that the other person is killed, both are wrong. When one is dead, one has not really died. So that means that the soul continues to live on. And when one is killed another, the man is not really dead. Both the Leela and the Nitya belong to the same reality. So this is one of the distinctions between the point of view of the Jnani. The Jnani will say this Leela, yes, we recognize this. This is the relative point of view, Vyavahariga point of view, but it doesn't have that ultimate reality to it. This is a transitory. We can enter into a realm where it all disappears. For Sri Ramakrishna, he accepts the relative as equally real. In a sense, it's a funny way of looking at it, but both the snake and the rope equally real. Because the snake is nothing but the rope, only in that other form. So both the Leela and the Nitya belong to the same reality. In one form, it is the absolute, and in another, the Leela. Even though the Leela is destroyed, the Nitya always exists. So this is the distinction. This Nirguna Brahman is always there. Saguna Brahman is what we call Nirguna Brahman at the time of creation. If there's no creation, there's Nirguna Brahman. alone is there as that ultimate reality. The saguna aspect is potential. Yeah. So the nice example that I like very much is the woman and the mother. That the woman, from the day she's born to the day she dies, she's a woman throughout. But not until she gives birth to a child is she a mother. Now, we don't say the woman and the mother are two different people, the same. But the womanhood is always there. That's the eternal aspect. The motherhood is dependent. So it involves a little bit of Maya or Shakti. Even though the Leela is destroyed, the Nitya always exists. Water is water, whether it is still or in waves. It is the same water when the waves quiet down. So this is how Thakur looked upon this Saguna Nirguna. It's one and the same woman. Only she'll be called a mother when the child is there. But whether the child is there or not there, she's a woman throughout. So same Brahman. Okay, this is a good place to stop. So we're stopping now at the bottom of page 801. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukam Bhatsurata Vikraham Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Okay, thank you, everyone. I hope it worked this time and got recorded and everything. We'll see. Okay, now exit. Changes you made may not be saved. Leave site. We have to leave the site.